All right, so hey, welcome to episode 8. We have special guest Andrew Burgi here. He's one of our brokers here at Performance Real Estate. Awesome dude. We're gonna hear his story, and we'll go from there. See what we're gonna put. He's gonna sweat. You're gonna see beads of sweat.
He's a little worried
on his forehead. He doesn't know what he's up for.
Questions. So, but before we start, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Kayla will probably put something right here. I'm guessing.
Remember?
So, remember. Excuse me, I better say it right.
Yes. Yes. Remember to like, share,
yes, remember. So, cool. All right, well, let's start it off. Andrew, why are you here?
Well, you guys were so graciously to invite me to
the beads of sweat are starting already.
To talk on your guys' show, and whatever questions you guys have, I'll try to be as transparent as we can and give some good advice, I guess.
Cool.
First question I got for you is how has your life changed, positive, negative, sideways, up, down, whatever, since being a part of our family here?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing for me is I didn't know what I was looking for when it came to, I guess, a work environment. So it just kind of slapped me in the face one day after I'd been here for a period of time. Trusting people within the industry and in general was always a thing for me, and opening up, letting people, help you out in your moments of vulnerability was not something I was really accustomed to outside, I guess, more of like just my friends and family, So yeah, once I came on here, I just saw that there were genuinely good people in the world that did have my best interest in mind and didn't have ulterior motives or some plan behind the scenes that they were trying to leverage me to benefit upon. And so that just kind of broke down some of the barriers that I had and allowed me to be vulnerable, and the amount of personal growth that comes from something like that is pretty substantial. So I think Cormac can attest to it. Probably when we met, I was in a very different headspace and point in my life, and I would be honest, I probably wasn't the most pleasant person, and I think I've come a long ways through the mentorship of you and just the kindness of everybody within the office. So
vulnerability, I'm seeing that kind of click up. So what is it about? Because people ask about, you should not be vulnerable in a business setting or anything like this. What is it about vulnerability when you finally uncrack that vulnerable code for everybody? It seems like it's just the weight's lifted off, and you can just be yourself and allow others to reach in. I had a coach one time tell me that, you got two hands, and I'm an acts of service guy, so I'm constantly lending a hand to everybody else, but the other hand's sitting here, and he says, you know what, you really need to let that hand open up and let someone help you as well. And that was a big thing for me because I didn't like taking help. So the vulnerability to be able to do that was huge, and it made me grow in a big way. So what is it about vulnerability that's allowed you to draw put your sword away, keep from drawing your sword and doing that? What is it about vulnerability that does that?
So I think the thing is, right, we talk a lot about, love languages, like you're an acts of service person. And for me, I didn't realize that it genuinely made people happy to help me out. And that I was being selfish by not allowing people to do that. And so I think once I internalized that and realized that it was mutually beneficial, that definitely softened me a little bit. And there's no need to reinvent the wheel. There's a lot of experience within the people that are here, whether it's marriage, finances, business ventures, whatever it is. And you don't have to suffer alone, I guess would be the way to put that. It's pretty easy to just lean on somebody that's been through something like that. And so once I I think vulnerability and pride are two things that kind of counteract each other, if you will.
We broke it down a bit there then?
A little bit. I was hard-headed and very proud and can I handle my business and get through it? Sure. But when you have such a tight-knit family that we have here, everybody's going to know if I'm having a bad day or whoever's having a bad day, and what's the point in hiding it, and when you create an environment like you guys have created here, if something's bothering me, I can come in. I already know somebody's going to address it at some point, so we might as well just hash it out now and move on with our day. Because one of the things I didn't realize either is the more you bottle that. Let's just take me for example. If I come in and I'm dealing with what I'm dealing with, and I bottle it up and I don't talk to anybody about it, and I don't let them help me, and we don't address it, my mannerisms and my demeanor have potentially negative impacts on other people, which isn't fair. So that's, I guess, kind of why being vulnerable is important, or why I've embraced it. So
Yeah, it's crazy when you learn that, huh?
Yeah, is there like a moment in time or a specific event or a series of events that you can point to that really like clicked for you to become more vulnerable? Or was it just a very slow chipping away?
It was definitely slow, but there might be something in his brain.
But there, it could have been something that hit.
I mean, it was slow. I think once at some point I got comfortable, right? And it was like, okay, like you get to know everybody. Everybody seems nice, and I think the biggest thing for me, I can't pinpoint an example, but watching other people go through it and seeing how other people treated them and observing that kind of stuff made it easier to want to partake in that, and then definitely internalizing and being like, yeah, see, if I keep this in and we don't deal with this is going to have negative impacts on other people. So
Gotcha. And then I know that you were part of the company, but you weren't part of the team at one point.
Sure.
And then I've heard the story where you've slowly just kind of started coming in more and more, and then all of a sudden
Marcy tells a great story.
Yeah. And then you asked Mark to be a part of the team. What was it at that point? Because the team did look a lot different at that point, even than it does now. But
yeah, so I was an independent, just operating on my own out of my apartment, and that was just like just right around COVID, I guess. And so when I could come into the office, like that was like a large portion of my human interactions. And it's like I was an independent, but I didn't really know Mark. I think we interviewed with Teresa at the time, and like that was it. That's about all I knew of you, except from seeing your face around and stuff like that. So coming in, just seeing how bubbly and nice Marcy was, really, I guess, kind of one of the big influences on that. She was just like overly.
And now you're pretty protective on Marcy.
Yeah, don't make Marcy cry. That's a big no-no. But yeah, so it was just slowly coming in and just seeing that there was good stuff going on, and then there were some business decisions along real estate that made this business model make sense to me. And yeah, then I interviewed with the team, and they took me on, and probably regretted it for a minute, but we overcame that. So
It was what's the word I was looking for? It was either going to work or it wasn't, right?
Yeah.
Because we both have to be willing to do this. I was willing to give you a chance because you're smart, you're driven, you got all these attributes that are great, but you just had a wall.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, well, if we can't break through that wall, this isn't going to work. But
Yeah.
I'm not going to not try.
Sure.
yeah, I mean, you pretty much would be willing to take a chance on almost anybody.
I know I get shut down a lot. Yeah.
You do. But
The hiring team.
But the interview process is funny too, because we talked about it in the last episode a little bit with Marcy. But
Sure.
when we do go through the interview process now to add somebody to the team, it's so funny how protective you are.
Oh, that's awesome.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think.
What's your favorite question?
Yeah.
Can we be friends?
Yeah.
That's a big thing. I think. I mean, maybe I feel a sense of obligation to point out that this is more than work, and like you are going to grow and change, and these have to be things that you want to do. Otherwise, you're going to be as uncomfortable as I was, and if you continually resist that, like I don't see it lasting.
Mm-hmm.
And so putting that out front, because it might not be obvious to people, right? We can tell them like we got great culture, but I think you have to dive a little bit deeper and like really be like, hey, listen, I didn't know what this was all about, but I'm telling you, like, this is what's going to happen. So you got to be on board with it, and you have to want to embrace that. So
it's pretty funny too, because you asked that question: do you want to be friends with the two of the new team members? And I don't think they quite grasped it.
Oh, yeah.
They're starting to a little bit, because they're tiptoeing around and asking questions, and then they're like, no, we're gonna have a conversation.
This morning's meeting.
Yeah.
The other day, one of the new hires, she was going through something, and you and I were there, and we're just like two grown men that you don't know, just sit down and like, tell us about your problems. Like, this is what we're here for, so let's get to the bottom of this. And she's like, what?
It's like, this is weird. I just told the people that she doesn't even quite know us yet, but we're like, guess what? Like, this isn't the last time it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So
I was so glad. I was out of town for a while with my wife, and it just keeps happening, right? And it's so good because your experience with what you've experienced, I didn't have that experience, right? I have a different mindset. I had a different mindset coming in, so I don't have that tale to tell. right? You have that tale to tell, and you have a tale to tell, and I have a tale to tell. They're all different, which is really crazy because these new people have different tales, and we can all kind of feed off of that. So it's pretty awesome.
No, absolutely. You were talking about how people being resistant to the change, and we were talking about how slow yours was. Were you resistant to it, or were you wanting it, and you just were like, I'm only giving a little at a time as it goes?
We're going to see if he tells the truth. He was resistant as
well. And I would say it was by design for sure. I mean, there are certain things that I don't want to get to on this, but it was a relatively traumatic period of time in my life leading up to that. There was a lot of embarrassment and stuff like that associated with it, and I think because people within the company were privy to some of that information, I just was afraid that was going to get exposed, or we were going to have to break down some of the nuances that played into that. And also, like a lot of people that come on here, right, like this is their first exposure to real estate. Like I was doing it for years on my own without support systems, and very much worried about not so much the second place I worked, but the first one. I was just very concerned about whom I was affiliated with, and it was just defense all the time. Like, right, it's like trying to make the best move from the chessboard, even if it's a bad move, you know, just to mitigate damages. And so it definitely took a period of time to realize what was going on and feel safe, I guess would probably be a good way to put it. And there's a level of comfort that comes with that where, I mean, you can be vulnerable, and that's important, I think. So
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big part of that bottling up. When people bottle up, it's in there and it festers. It's just like an infection, and it just sits there. You don't do anything with it. It's going to get worse and worse and worse, and all those things pop in. There was a fantastic speech by one of the keynote speakers at one of our conferences that talked about our whiteboard, and I can't remember the book she was explaining, but we have a whiteboard, and Rachel, thank you. She knows. The whiteboard you get stuff written on it all day long. Bad stuff, good stuff, indifferent stuff, or whatever. And at night, when you go to sleep, the whiteboard starts erasing.
Right.
But your brain is going to erase, because of your primal brain, your brain's going to erase all the good stuff that happened, and it's going to hold that bad stuff because you want to protect yourself from that. And if you don't get enough sleep, or you wake up the next morning, you still have bad stuff on your board, it just adds. And the next thing you know, there's no room for good stuff on that board.
Yeah.
And so you have to physically erase your board and say, you know what, tomorrow's going to be a new day, or the next minute's going to be a new minute. You don't have to wait till tomorrow. You can start right now. You can't change anything that happened right now or before, but I can certainly change everything that happens going forward. And so Nicole, I think it was Nicole that bought us all erasers. After that conference, and all of a sudden on all our desks, every one of us had an eraser. And we're like, what's the eraser? And she said, listen, this is for your board. Just wipe that sucker clean. And start over right now. And it doesn't matter. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. I think as a loop back to you had asked, if there was a specific time or whatever. I think understanding, disc profiles and stuff like that, like discerner, what I mean? Like, I am going to dwell on things or overanalyze it, you know what I mean? So I think that made it hard to break out of it too, because it's just like with so much change going on in a positive direction, it was a lot of like just rerunning it through my head and making sure that actually made sense, and it ultimately was leading in positive directions, which you can't always say is how it goes in life, and so that also certainly drew me in more. So
that brings up a great thing. I mean, you talk about discerners. Those of you that are discerners out there, which means you're constantly thinking forward of what could be good or bad with a situation. It fills your brain so much, it consumes you, right?
Yeah.
When you understand that about yourself, and you can answer to it. I've heard other people say it, but I have discernment, but it's not one of my first traits. So I can turn that off pretty easily. And once you know that about yourself, you say, I'm going to turn my discernment off right now and just listen.
Yeah, that's not how that works for
people.
Discernment.
And just so you know, what they're talking about is the widget, the Working Genius with Patrick Lencioni. So
and we brought that up.
We've brought it up before, but just wanted to reiterate that. So,
And did we get the? Oh, sorry. It's not that we're negative. Okay, this is like the biggest thing I've had to. It's like my friends, my family, relationships, whatever it is. It's just like I'm not trying to be negative, but when somebody comes but when somebody comes to me with something that's just like, you're going to get the good and the bad, it's like, yes, this can work and it's got to go like this, and here's a reason that it's not going to work. I'm not trying to shut dreams down or anything like that. That's just literally how I'm wired.
Sure.
And so that self-awareness is important.
And we all know that, right?
Absolutely.
So,
and the big
knowing
piece
that.
too, though, is like when you talk about the widgets, is because I'm a discerner as well, but I am a wonderer as well.
Sure.
And you're a tenacity, right? So a discerner and tenacity. So even the discerners and wonders and discerners and tenacity will think in a totally
Very
different
different.
thought
Yeah.
process. They'll go over it in their heads, because I still do too. I can think on it for days before I actually do or say something.
Right.
Sometimes even longer than that, but we definitely think in a different process. I mean, I think we always end up coming to a very similar conclusion, but we have different avenues that we go down because our other geniuses are different.
Yeah.
So,
I'll never forget when we learned, when we first learned about the working genius at a conference in Big Sky, Montana. One of us was taking videos of our team together in our condo or in our VRBO or whatever we're in, and taking videos of everybody in the room because we're going over what we've learned and what we were going to implement when we get home and all this. And you and two others were just kind of, the whole conversation is going on, and you and two others were just looking into the sky, kind of looking around. And one of the brokers, one of the team members, came up to me and said, I think they're checked out. They don't even want to participate. And then we realized you're a wanderer. After we took that test, all three of you were wanderers, so and discerner. And so you're wondering about, okay, how can this go forward? Everyone's talking about it, and it's spinning in your head, going, okay, and you just weren't ready to spit it out yet.
Yeah.
And we realized, I went back and looked at the video, and it was, oh my gosh, it was so incredible. So we didn't assume, at first we did assume that you were just checked out.
right.
And then we realized, now that we know who Cormac is and who Andrew is, we can put a finger on that and go, and that's why that's happening.
Yeah.
So we don't have to feel negative thoughts about what's going on. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So this is called Kuhlture Keepers after Mark, because one of the things that we're trying to encapsulate and put out there is Mark's been able to create successful good cultures throughout his career as a leader.
Sure.
So as Mark, as a leader, do you have thoughts on the differences that he has compared to other leaders that you've been with, or anything that stands out to you that you could speak on?
Yeah. Well, I would say most of the people that I followed in my work profession were actually leaders. That's probably the biggest difference. But so I thought a lot about this because I understand what the point of this show is about and stuff like that. And so I think
You thought a lot about it?
So I'll try to get to this in the best way that I can. So I think there's a big difference between culture and tradition, right? So like if you break it down into like a sports analogy, right? Like the tradition, it would be like winning multiple championships, right? The culture would be the behind the scenes stuff. And I think to have good culture, you have to have a group of people that unite behind a common leadership with, I guess like a solid standard, like operating procedure or guidelines to follow behind. And so you do have that. You have a group of people that have chosen to follow Mark on this path, and we have our 10 commandments, right? And that's kind of like the marching orders, if you will. And when people actually buy into that, and the leadership is bought into that and generally vested in people, I think that's how you get good culture. And then diving into the widgets and stuff like that, and helping people have the personal growth and everybody being a part in that environment is what begets that. So generally speaking, I don't think a lot of business owners, at least from my experience, genuinely are interested in the personal development of their people. I would say that you are 100% vested in that. I think that the success is a byproduct of how you treat people, and people are attracted to that and want to give more. I can definitely say on multiple occasions, you have helped me out on just personal stuff, that wasn't work related, and that you took time out of your day to make sure that I was good before we did anything else. And that's definitely the biggest difference, I would say, is that you genuinely care about people to like a whole nother level, and that's your acts of service. So
And we talked about this. We talk about any of you can change culture anyway. You don't have to be my personality to do that. It comes naturally to me. And it's almost an embarrassment that it is natural because I'll say, "Oh, I don't think that way." Well,
Sure.
I do, you know. And so now that you've bought into that, say Mark goes away.
Yeah.
Mark is no longer here. Mark has got hit by a truck.
Yeah.
He's gone. How does that continue here, right? Do you have the ability to be a part of this team and do that without me? I think you all do. And you did. You showed this last week that we've been gone. My wife and I went on a cruise for our 31st wedding anniversary, and I don't know that I got a phone call from anybody.
That's by design.
And yeah, by design, I know, right? And so you guys did everything and took care of everything here. And then I hear these stories of you meeting up with one of the new folks and she wasn't having a good day. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you guys have the ability to do that. It might be a big shock that, oh, one of our people are gone. Like if you were gone, that would kill me, right?
Yeah.
But we all have the ability to make this thing roll and work. Yeah, it's not one person, right?
We do, but we have. I agree with Andrew. We united behind this idea that you've created and how you like the 10 Commandments, like you said. Like we read them, but at our Tuesday meetings every time, and we go through them. We joke sometimes about them, but we totally are. I mean, and we can post those, right? That might be something that we can throw out there. The 10 Commandments so everyone can know what we're talking about. We talked about it, I think, on the first or second episode, but
You know, I'll give that a shout out to Chief Paul Stein, Santa Monica Fire Department.
Yeah.
Did a class with him 30 years ago or whatever when I was a firefighter, and asked him if I could have that. And he said, absolutely, use it. So I posted it all the fire halls that I was in charge of, and I've done it in the business, and it's just great life stuff. It's not a real estate thing. It's not a fire thing. It's a life thing. It's really
yeah,
cool.
it has nothing to do with
Yeah.
any of that. Yeah. So, but we're all united behind that idea. So I actually think if you did get hit by a Mack truck, we would probably stay together as a team. But I would venture to guess there would be some shifts in culture because
sure.
there would be somebody that would have to step up to be the leader that we would rally behind, and they're not going to be the same as you. And that's the whole thing, right? We want to give tools to everyone for the culture that they can create at their jobs, not just being Mark, but there's tools within what Mark has been able to create in the past that we can give everyone, and they can take what they want, and what they don't want, they can
Yeah.
leave behind. So.
And they get to create whatever you want. That's the cool thing. Like I said, the culture at your bank is different than the culture at your church or the culture at your business or whatnot. So.
Well, any other last words before we wrap up? Anything you want to?
Just looking for the beads.
No, I don't. No, I mean, it's great. I mean, I guess, if anybody's tuning in that, owns
Yeah.
There's that discernment. Yeah.
anybody that was watching this with the intent of, implementing any of this stuff, I would certainly encourage you to reach out to Mark or Cormac to learn more about it. Having quality people buy into a common dream and goal is a good thing, and it'll definitely change people's lives. So, thanks for having me on.
No,
Thanks,
man.
Thanks for
Appreciate
being
it.
here.
Yeah. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe again, please. We'll post the 10 Commandments. We referenced the widget. We'll try to get that out to you guys as well. I feel like there was something else that we needed to know. Okay, never mind. So
Kayla said no.
Yeah, Kayla told us no. So awesome. Thanks, guys. And we're going to kick him out and talk about him again.
We're going to talk about them. Yeah, we're going to do that.